Hi there, I'm Noella's from Zeplin. We're so happy to be able to join us today as we announce some exciting new updates to kickstart the new year. At Zeplin, our mission is to help teams deliver on the promise of design. Every day, thousands of designers publish their finalized screens and collaborate with their team across different disciplines directly in Zeplin. We have developers, QA testers, UX writers, product managers, and more, all coming together to bring their designs to life. In the Zeplin workspace, teams have an organized environment, allowing them to quickly understand designs and easily collaborate with the rest of the multidisciplinary team. We have some amazing product teams from all around the world using Zeplin, like Disney, Atlassian, WebMD, Audi, and Starbucks. We'll be hearing from one of these teams shortly, so stay tuned. Our users are doing exciting things with Zeplin, like Lana from Electrolux, where they're saving months with a new design workflow. Or Barbara at ArcTouch, where they're extending their design system with Zeplin. We love connecting with our users and work to build features that help them do great things. That brings us to today. We've been busy. We're going to talk about 3 new product updates: component variants, the new notifications experience, and a brand new integration with Zapier. I'll be monitoring the chat window, so come say hello and tell us what part of the world you're joining us from. I'll also do my best to answer any questions you might have, so feel free to post them there. Now, I'd like to introduce my teammate, Matt, who'll tell us more about these updates. Over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Noelis. I'm super excited to be here today and share some awesome new capabilities that we've rolled out in Zeplin. One of the most common ways designers are using Zeplin today is by publishing their components. And once in Zeplin, product teams know that those components are finalized and ready to be used in development. They can also quickly identify reusable components that are part of their design system, and they can even connect those components to code. Now, we're taking components one step further, and I'm excited to introduce you to component variants. Let's dive in. Here I am in Zeplin working on one of my projects. You'll see I've got these 6 components that I've designed using my favorite design tool and published here to Zeplin. Now, as a reminder, you can use Zeplin with the design tool of your choice, whether that's Adobe XD or Sketch or Figma. And in fact, we've built something really special for our Figma users. So stay tuned, I'll share a bit more about that later on. Now, these 6 components are buttons that I've designed for an app that I'm working on. And there's currently no relationship between these buttons. I've used a bit of a naming convention with slashes and nested names to try to convey that these buttons are related. But as it stands, these are 6 distinct components. So let's use this new component variants feature and establish a relationship between these buttons. I can do that by clicking on this component variants icon here, and boom, just like that, Zeplin creates this component variant for me. This is great. So let's jump in here and see what's going on. So Zeplin creates this component variant and it's named it button. And here I can see these variant properties that have already been defined. And if I want, I can even group by property type. Cool, so just with one click, Zeplin has analyzed these 6 components, including the naming conventions used, and cleanly and neatly organized everything into one component variant. Now, this neat organization comes in even more useful when I'm dealing with a higher quantity of components. For example, here I've got a big group of icons with different colors representing different states. So let's use this component variants feature again, and we'll organize these icons a bit better. So I'll click on this button, and again we see Zeplin analyzes all of these components and extracts these properties for me. Now, these properties are fully customizable, so I could rename this to type, and this to color. And if I want, I can even rearrange how these properties are displayed. So now it's super simple to find the exact component I'm looking for. Say, for example, weather in light orange. Great. So now that I've got everything neatly organized and I've established a relationship between these buttons, let's take a look at how a developer might interact with component variants. So as a developer, I want to make sure that I clearly understand everything that I need to build for the screen that I'm working on. So let's hop over to this guide detail screen where I can see this button is being used. Cool, so as a developer, when I come in here, I can click on this component, and I'll notice I've got a new component variants area here, showing me all the properties of this button. Looks like my designer wants me to use a primary button in its default state. Cool. But what if I want to see the other states this button is available in? Now I can quickly do that using this component variants icon or the keyboard shortcut V. And when I do that, I get this nice little pop-up window right on this screen that shows me all the properties of this button. And if I continue hitting V, it cycles through the variant states. And this is awesome. And as you'd expect, right here in this right panel, I get all of the Zeplin goodness, dimensions and color. And as I cycle through to the disabled state, you'll notice that the technical specs update right along with it. Here I've got 50% opacity, and I'm using the color Teflon to indicate that this button has been disabled. So if I want, I can also access the other types for this button, but you'll notice that Zeplin intentionally defaults to cycling through based on state. Now that's interesting. Now why is that? Well, in this instance, since my designer has selected the primary button, it's unlikely that I as the developer will need to create a secondary button here. But what is more typical is that I'll need to use these variant states in building out this button. And since this is the most common workflow, Zeplin intentionally defaults to that workflow just to make everyone's lives a little bit happier. Now, speaking of workflows, there's one more aspect of component variants that makes it super intuitive for designers and developers to work together. Let's check it out. So here I am on this screen, and let's say that this button should be in a disabled state while the rest of the data is loading. So as a designer or a product manager, I can quickly document this requirement using a note. So I'll open this pop-up window here again and toggle through to the disabled state, and I can copy this link. Then I'll add a note here saying, use this state while data is loading. Boom, and I paste that link in there, and you'll notice that Zeplin cleans up that messy link and now shows me the name and the type and the state. So when I come back in as a developer and I click on this note, this link takes me right to that same pop-up window to the exact state of the button that I need to build. Now, this makes my job as a developer a ton easier. Now finally, for teams that are leveraging the power of connected components in Zeplin, we've recently rolled out some updates to automate the entire process of setting up new connected components. Now in your project, you can click on a component and you'll see this Connect to Code button, and that will take you to this new setup experience. Once you've set up your connected component, you'll see something that looks like this, with links so you can hop into Storybook or VS Code, and now you're able to access production-ready code right from within your Zeplin workspace. We think you'll love connecting components to code using this new setup experience. Okay, so now before we wrap up component variants, I haven't forgotten about our special integration with Figma. We are excited to announce support for variants in Figma that was announced last October. Let's hop over to Figma and we'll see how this works. So here I am in Figma, and I've got these same buttons that we demoed earlier, along with a couple new types, tertiary and warning. And using the variants feature in Figma, these buttons have already been defined as a variant, which is great. So now once I've finalized these design components, I can go ahead and publish them to Zeplin in just a couple clicks using the rich Zeplin integration that exists. And Zeplin will carry over all of the variant data that's been defined in Figma. So we can see that here in the Zeplin web app. Here's all that variant data from Figma, and I've got the same clean organization that we showed with component variants earlier. Now the entire team can take advantage of all the benefits of component variants in Zeplin, like cycling through states, documenting product requirements in detail. We love the variants feature in Figma, and are excited to support our Figma users with component variants in Zeplin. Now, in summary, component variants improve collaboration across the entire product team. developers can quickly understand relationships that exist between related components. And right from that screen view, they can cycle through variant states and access all the information that they need to start writing code. Developers also see technical specs that update and map according to each variant. And designers and PMs can use links in Zeplin notes to document their product requirements in detail, down to the specific variant of each component. We're sure you'll love using component variants even more than we loved building it for you. But enough from me. Let's hear from one of our awesome users on their experience using component variants in Zeplin.
Hey guys, Colin here at WebMD. The crew over at Zeplin has given me an opportunity to work with component variants for the last few weeks now. And I have to say, they are an absolute game changer for my workflow from XD to Zeplin. See, at WebMD, we've got a bunch of different products and sites we're trying to maintain. And every single one has a slight design language variation, which means I've got to keep up with notes and documentation and naming patterns for every single component to make sure that the dev team's using the right one at the right time, and to make sure that I'm using the right one at the right time. Because of that, it creates a bit of friction between the designers and the developers, especially whenever the developers have to continue to look at the notes and understand and interpret what I'm trying to tell them. So let's back up for a minute. Imagine we're trying to build a page, and that page has a specific button that needs to appear on it. Now I'm going to have to go through the component library and look at all my button variations and make sure I grab the right one, which means I'm looking through notes, I'm looking at the names, if I've got a naming pattern, I'm looking through any sort of documentation that I have for every single variation. And then I'm having to take that, compile it, and pass it over to the dev team. Just too much time, and the dev team can oftentimes get off track if they're used to using a different variation of that button. So that's where component variations come in play. Zeplin, having introduced component variants into their tool, means that I don't have to worry about which notes I'm using, and I don't even have to write new ones whenever I pass over to the dev team, which means that my work becomes a lot easier. I don't have to spend time doing a lot of things, and I have more time to design new things. That also means the dev team doesn't have to worry about which variation they're using. They can just look right at Zeplin, and everything is right there in front of their fingertips. Now, this also makes my product managers happier because they don't have to worry about how long it's going to take us to get something done. We're just faster now. And that's why Zeplin is so awesome. I love you. Thank you for this. And thanks, guys, for having me.
Colin, thank you. That means a ton to everybody here at the Zeplin crew. Now, let's take a look at the second feature we're announcing today. This is one of our most requested features and something I'm very excited to share with you. It is a major update to notifications in Zeplin, and we're providing it today as a pre-release. Now, delivering on the promise of design requires people from many different functions, each with their own unique set of skills, to come together on a journey and bring a product from idea to reality. And just like on any journey, good communication is crucial to success. So let's jump in and let's see how these new Zeplin notifications can help you and your team on your own product journeys. So now Notifications has an entirely new screen with content that's neatly organized into a few different sections. Here on the left, I can filter my notifications based on the type or the project I'm interested in. Here I can see the actual notifications themselves with blue dots indicating unread notifications. And here, I'm given a preview with a link to hop directly into that location within my Zeplin workspace. And this helps ensure that my conversations are happening within the context of my design. So let's see these notifications in action. Let's say I'm a developer, and as a developer, I've likely got a backlog full of a lot of different projects with numerous screens, but I want to focus my efforts. I'm ready to start writing code, and I want to make sure I've got the latest updates to a project that I'm working on. Now I can choose to only view notifications related to my travel project. And I only want to see updates about screens. Cool, so here I am. It looks like my design team has been busy. I've got a few new updates to check out. Now when I click on one of these notifications, I can quickly understand what's changed. Looks like some new card images have been added. Great. Now you might recognize this as a commit message. These commit messages are super helpful for designers to keep track of version changes and to make sure that the entire product team stays aligned. Now, if I want, I can click on this link and hop into the screen view and start working. But for now, I'm going to mark this as unread, and I'll circle back to it later. Okay, so in addition to staying up to date on all the changes being made on my project, I want to make sure that I'm always in the loop with relevant conversations that are happening. And in the past, I used to have this big wall of notes that I'd have to comb through, searching for the feedback that I was looking for. But now, I can easily filter and find the exact conversation that I need. Now, I remember my product manager, Jan, had some feedback about a certain screen, but I can't remember exactly where that was. So I'm going to filter my notes and find all the notes from Jan. And here it is. I've got a preview of that screen where she left her feedback, and I can see this entire conversation right here in this thread. And it looks like they're needing a list of websites. I can even reply right here. Yes, I'll provide. Great. So in addition to filtering by team member, I can also filter by note color. A lot of Zeplin users are using colors to categorize their feedback. For example, on our team, an orange note indicates feedback that comes from the product team. So if I want, I can filter and show only my orange notes. And here we go. Here's that same conversation that I was looking for from Jan. Now, in summary, this new notifications experience is a powerful tool for collaboration, and it's great for multidisciplinary teams. Whether your role is in development, QA, marketing, or copywriting, you now have a clean and easy-to-use workspace that is easy and friendly to designers and non-designers alike. Zeplin notifications help you stay up to date with version changes and stay in the loop about all the relevant conversations going on. It also allows you to communicate within the context of your designs and avoid switching to separate tools for feedback and discussion. We're excited about the impact this new notifications experience will have for teams, and we're sure you'll love using it. Now, finally, that brings us to the last feature we're announcing today, our new integration with Zapier. Now, in case you're not familiar with Zapier, it is an awesome automation tool that you can use to create custom workflows called Zaps. And the best part is anybody can use it. There's no development skills needed. You can already build custom workflows in Zeplin using the Zeplin API and webhooks, but you do need to know your way around the world of APIs in order to do so. With this new Zapier integration, anybody on the team can extend Zeplin and personalize it to fit your own workflow. Let's check out a couple examples of Zaps that you can create using this new integration. Let's say that our team is using Jira to track the product development process. Now, Zeplin already has an amazing integration with Jira that's used by thousands of teams, but perhaps my needs are a bit more specific. What if I could have Jira automatically create a ticket based on some activity that happens in Zeplin? Well, with this new Zapier integration, this is super simple to set up and requires no assistance from my development team. Let's see this in action here using the guide screen. It looks like Zoe has left a note here raising some concerns about accessibility standards. And she's also included this trigger word, #ticket. Now this is the trigger that triggers the Zap to create that Jira ticket. So when I hop into Jira, I should expect to see this same comment right there. So I'll hop over to Jira, and here it is. Here's that same comment with the link back to Zeplin. And now this comment is right within the workflow that my team is best used to. Now let's check out one more Zap that hits close to home for our Zeplin crew. You may or may not know, but a big portion of our team is actually based out of Turkey. And while their English is phenomenal, my Turkish is horrendous. So we've built a Zap to help with this problem. Let's check it out here in Zeplin. I'm going to create a note that says, hey, shouldn't this be 30 point? #translate. And we've used this translate keyword here to trigger the Zap. And the Zap will detect the language that I used and automatically translate it to the language that I want. And here we go. This bot has kindly translated my English into a comment in Turkish. Rosetta Stone, goodbye. I now speak Turkish. So now this just makes Zeplin even more useful for international teams that are using Zeplin around the globe. So whether you're using this new Zapier integration for creating that perfect Jira issue that best suits your team's needs, or improving communication for multilingual teams, the sky's the limit on how you can use this new Zapier integration to personalize Zeplin to best fit your workflow. We're excited to see what you create. That's the end of my portion of today's demo, so Noelis, back over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. And thank you, Colin from WebMD, for sharing your experience with Zeplin. That brings us to the end of our presentation. On behalf of all of us at Zeplin, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. It's been great chatting with all of you. We love our users, and everything we do is focused on helping you deliver on the promise of design. We hope you enjoyed today's event. See you all soon.